my name is Sandra and today we're going to do a you and me session for adults and children, and we're going to do crayon etching. So this is the result of the crayon etching, and to do that we need a few materials. So we need a design. We're going to do a fish, some cardboard just to even out your surface underneath, some cartridge paper, some tracing paper, oil pastels, brush water and some acrylic paint, some black acrylic paint. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to take our design and our cartridge paper. If you've got some blue tack, it might be an idea just to stick the tracing paper to the design, and then we're going to trace off. So we're going to rock back and forth with our pencil, and this gives a line which is a little bit darker, and it also gives you more control over the line. So if I did this, like if I just did a single line like this, it's quite hard to follow the actual line underneath. Whereas when we rock back and forth, it's much easier to do the tracing. We're also using a 2B pencil today, and that is so we get a darker line. It's just a softer lead. So we're like this. I do mine fairly quickly, but you just take your time. You can remove any detail that you don't want. It doesn't need to be exactly the same, but hopefully it will still look like a fish. Okay, like this. Now this is the correct side. We're going to do a reverse tracing, and so the image is going to come out the other way round, but for us today that's perfectly fine. We don't want to kind of do a tracing which is any harder than it needs to be, so we're going to do a reverse tracing today. So that's out of the way. So we've got our tracing, we need some cartridge paper. And now what we're going to do is we're going to fill this cartridge paper with lots of different colours. It doesn't matter how you do this. You could do different patterns. You can just have some fun and just start to colour in all of the cartridge paper. Now what you don't want to be doing is we can't have it like this. We can't have the white of the cartridge paper showing. It needs to be a wax resist. So we need to be as dense as we possibly can. So no white to be seen. So we're going to do a fairly abstract design. You can even just do lines. If you can't think of any shapes, just do lines and fill in those lines, one after the other. That is. Quite like those pink spots. I think I'll do some pink spots. So this could be a piece of work all by itself, really. yellow. It doesn't matter if the colours merge into one another, perfectly fine, and we'll all add to the finished piece of work, okay, as is. And we could even use a little bit of white. But just make sure that any gaps are filled in. You don't want any cartridge paper showing. So I'm just going to go over this white and just make sure that gaps are filled in. You don't need to come to the edge of the paper and kind of make a mess of the table. You can just, we're just going to concentrate on this middle section. Where did that green go? Kids love doing this. We did this at Christmas and we made Christmas cards like this, and our image, our trace image, was some Christmas trees, and it worked really, really well. Okay, I think that'll be okay for now. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to put this black acrylic paint all over. And I don't have my mixing palette today, unfortunately. So I'm just going to use another bit of cartridge paper. And a large brush. Now you don't want too much water, but you need enough water for the paint to become a little bit more fluid than it is straight out of the tube. Then what we're going to do is we're going to cover the whole of our wax crayon, and already it's starting to resist. So that's why you don't want too much water, because water and the oil don't mix together that well. Okay, so we're like this. We're just doing long strokes, either horizontal or vertical, up and down. And you can trim this off at the end if you need to. If you want a super neat edge, you can trim that off at the end. I quite like the edge as is. Just come down here, just make it a little bit neater. Okay, and we need to leave this to dry, totally dry. So acrylic paints are really good because they dry fairly quickly. I'm going to give this 10 minutes and then we're going to come back for stage 2. What I do with the children is I would normally get a hairdryer and we would hairdry this off because well, they don't want to wait 10 minutes. So we would hairdry this off and resume. So we're just going to make sure that this is dry before we move on to putting a trace in over the top. Now with this, we have got our correct side, which is here, and so that's going to be flipped over so we can trace off. It may start to do the crayon etching even now. So you need a fairly sharp pencil. So at this stage, make sure that the pencil has got enough lead and you are tracing back over. And again, you can kind of put a little bit of blue tack if need be. So you're just following the lines, and you need to make sure that you try and follow the line as accurately as you can, otherwise the lead won't come onto the other side. Remember that back and forth movement if you are losing control. Okay, now what we do have is, I don't know if you can see it that accurately, but what we do have is I can see the pencil, I can see the trace lines. Now what we need to do is we need to crayon etch, and basically we need to take a pencil, this is fairly blunt anyway. So we need to take the pencil and we need to scratch away, or you can take the other side of the brush. Let me just wash this out. You can take the other side of the brush. You could use, what else could you use? Anything really that is going to scratch away the surface. Okay, so I'll have a go at the other side of the brush, see what that does. Okay, that's good. Okay, so we're starting to scratch away the pencil line, and underneath we will see the colour. So if I wanted to just scratch away the whole thing, I'm using a diagonal movement, because we still kind of, you know, are getting a mark. So we're still doing a bit of mark making, so I'm just doing a diagonal movement. Try not to let that pencil mark show too much. Okay, and we're like this. Nice. You can keep some bits black, and then other bits you can fill in. You can also start to create patterns within the fish, so it doesn't need to be just the lines that you put here. So we could now be a little bit more creative, and we can start to look at patterns within larger areas. So I'm just doing a triangle here, because it's such a vast space of black. It'd be nice to put some patterning in. I have a fin here, so I'm just going to carve out that fin just here. That looks nice. Might kind of just do some stripes on this fin. And then I'm just going to carve all of these smaller shapes out. So if you didn't have any lead in your pencil, then you could do the same. Just make sure that there is no lead in that pencil. Otherwise you'll start to kind of do the pencil marks within the design. And the same here. Okay, now this is another fin. So I'll take on the same pattern. Missed a little bit of the tracing there, so I'll just make that up. Lips. Just going to carve those lips out. It's really lovely to see all of the different colours that we've done underneath. Okay, so we have a look. Oh, need an eye. So we have a look and we sort of see, you know, does it need any more? And this area here is just too black. So we want to just do some kind of patterning on there. So I'm going to stick with the triangle theme. I'm just going to make them larger. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do just really large triangle shapes, and I continue that in a reverse way. As is. And you can do anything and everything. You can just make it up as you go along. Just going to do a little bit of a chevron design here. So there's no wrong or right. You can be as symmetrical or as random as you would like to be. Just have a little bit of fun with it. Do I need to do something with the head? Just going to do just a few little waves just to kind of separate the head from the body. And we have a nice fish design. Here what we have is some spots and some chevrons again, most like a bit of chevron. And then you can just be as bold or as delicate as you want to be. So I'm hoping that that's a nice project. These projects are about an hour long and really good results at the end. So when we feel that we've done our crayon etching, all we need to do now is, if we feel like there is too much of the pencil mark, and also if it's a little bit too dull and it hasn't lifted with the end of the brush, etc., we can use a rubber and we can just go in and we can just rub away the paint and make it a little bit lighter. Now it does take off a little bit of the oil pastel underneath, so you don't want to do it everywhere, but just to give it a little bit of highlight, you can just use your rubber just to make it a little bit brighter and move any pencil that you need. So that is the finished fish wax resist. Thanks for watching.